Imagine this. It's a warm winter day in Boston, January 15th, 1919. You're walking through the crowded streets of the North End, the Italian neighborhood. Immigrants, tenements, life. And then you hear it. A sound like machine gun fire, a deep, thunderous rumbling. You look up and you see a wall, a massive wall, 40 feet high, moving toward you at 35 miles per hour. But this isn't water. It isn't mud. It isn't anything you've ever seen before. It's molasses. 2.3 million gallons of thick, sticky, brown molasses, a wave of sweet death rolling through the streets of Boston. It crushes buildings, rips homes from their foundations, swallows people whole, drowns them in syrup. 21 people die. 150 are injured. And for decades afterward, on hot summer days, the streets of Boston's North End still smell like molasses. This is the story of the Great Molasses Flood, one of the strangest disasters in American history, a tragedy that sounds absurd until you understand what really happened. Welcome to Echoes of History. Today's story isn't about war. It isn't about disease or famine. It's about corporate negligence, about cutting corners, about ignoring warnings until it's too late. It's about a disaster so bizarre that people didn't believe it was real, a disaster that killed 21 people and changed Boston forever. This is the story of the day Boston drowned in molasses. To understand this story, we need to talk about molasses, and World War I, and greed. In 1915, America isn't in the war yet, but American companies are making fortunes selling supplies to the Allied powers: Britain, France, Russia. And one of the most profitable products is alcohol. Not for drinking, for making munitions, explosives, bombs. The U.S. Industrial Alcohol Company, known as USIA, is one of the biggest. They distill industrial alcohol from molasses. Molasses from the Caribbean, shipped to Boston, distilled into alcohol, sold to munitions manufacturers. It's incredibly profitable. The company is making money hand over fist. But there's a problem. Boston Harbor is crowded, space is limited, and USIA needs somewhere to store the molasses before it can be processed. So in 1915, they decide to build a tank, a massive storage tank, right in the heart of Boston's North End neighborhood. The location they choose is 529 Commercial Street, right next to the waterfront. Perfect for unloading ships. But it's also in the middle of a residential area. Tenements, homes, families. The North End is one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in America. Mostly Italian immigrants, working-class families, crowded streets. USIA doesn't care. They own the land. They have the permits. They're going to build their tank, and they're going to build it fast. Construction begins in late 1915. The tank is designed to hold 2.3 million gallons of molasses, 50 feet tall, 90 feet in diameter, made of steel plates riveted together. It's enormous, one of the largest tanks of its kind in the world. But the construction is rushed. Corners are cut. Safety is ignored. The project manager is a man named Arthur Gell. He's not an engineer. He's not a construction expert. He's a company man, a businessman. His job is to get the tank built quickly and cheaply. Gell hires the cheapest contractors he can find. The steel plates are thin. Too thin. The rivets are poorly installed. The welds are shoddy. Workers complain. They say the tank isn't safe, that the rivets are leaking, that the whole structure is unstable. Gell ignores them. He's on a deadline. The war is raging in Europe. Demand for alcohol is sky high. Every day the tank isn't operational, USIA is losing money. The tank is completed in December 1915, just weeks after construction began. No structural tests, no safety inspections, no review by qualified engineers. They paint the tank brown to hide the leaks, to hide the rust streaks, to hide the problems.
And in January 1916, they fill it with molasses for the first time. Immediately, problems emerge. The tank leaks. Not little drips, significant leaks. Molasses oozes from the seams, runs down the sides, pools at the base. Neighborhood children come with cups and buckets to collect the free molasses. It's the Depression era. People are poor. Free food is free food. Workers report the leaks to management. Management does nothing. They just paint over the leaks with more brown paint. Community boards complain. The tank groans. It creaks. On quiet nights, you can hear it from blocks away, a deep metallic groaning, like the tank is alive, like it's in pain. People who live nearby start having nightmares about the tank. They imagine it bursting, molasses flooding the streets. But they tell themselves it's ridiculous. Who ever heard of a molasses disaster? It's just a tank. It's fine. USIA assures everyone it's safe. The company sends representatives to community meetings. They smile, they shake hands, they promise the tank is structurally sound. They show permits, they cite regulations, they make it sound scientific, official, safe. But the tank keeps leaking and groaning, and the neighborhood keeps worrying. For 3 years, the tank stands there, a massive brown cylinder looming over the north end. Ships arrive regularly, pumping thousands of gallons of molasses into the tank. The tank fills. The tank is emptied. The cycle continues. And with each cycle, the structure weakens. The steel fatigues. The rivets loosen. The pressure builds.
The morning of January 15th starts normally. Workers arrive at the nearby factories. Families go about their day. Children play in the streets. The tank sits there, as it has for 3 years. Brown, massive, groaning. At around 12:30 in the afternoon, workers at the Purity Distilling Company, which operates the tank, hear a change in the sound. The groaning gets louder, more intense. Some workers stop and listen. Something feels wrong. At 12:40 p.m., the tank explodes. Not with fire, not with smoke, with pure structural failure. The rivets fail. The steel plates rip apart, and 2.3 million gallons of molasses, heated by the unseasonably warm weather and fermenting inside the tank, burst forth with the force of a bomb. Witnesses describe the sound as deafening, like thunder, like an earthquake, like the world ending. The tank doesn't just leak, it disintegrates. Massive sheets of steel fly through the air like shrapnel. One piece, weighing several tons, flies 200 feet and crashes into a building. The molasses itself forms a wave, 15 to 40 feet high, depending on where you're standing, moving at 35 miles per hour, faster than most people can run. And here's the thing about molasses. It's not like water. Water is fluid. It flows around obstacles. It's dangerous, but you can potentially swim in it, fight against it. Molasses is viscous, thick, heavy. It weighs about 12 pounds per gallon. 2.3 million gallons means over 27 million pounds of molasses moving at 35 miles per hour. When the wave hits something, it doesn't just knock it over. It crushes it, obliterates it. The wave hits a fire station first, engine 31, right next to the tank. The building is made of brick, solid, strong. The molasses wave tears it apart like paper. Firefighters inside hear the explosion. They look up. They see the wave. They have seconds to react. Some run. Some are frozen in shock. The wave hits. The building collapses. Firefighters are buried under brick and molasses. 2 firefighters die instantly. Others are trapped, drowning in molasses, unable to move, unable to breathe. The wave continues down Commercial Street. It hits tenement buildings. These are 4- and 5-story apartment buildings filled with families, mostly Italian immigrants. People are eating lunch, doing laundry, living their lives. They hear the explosion. They look out their windows. They see a brown wall rushing toward them. Some try to run, but there's nowhere to go. The molasses smashes into the buildings. The force is so great that entire structures are ripped from their foundations. Walls collapse, floors cave in, families are buried alive. Maria DeStasio is in her home with her children. She hears the explosion. She grabs her kids, she runs for the door. The wave hits before she reaches it. The entire building collapses around her. She's buried under debris and molasses. Her 10-year-old son, Pasquale, is with her. They're trapped together, in the dark, in the sticky, suffocating molasses. Maria can hear Pasquale crying. She tries to comfort him. She tries to dig them out, but the molasses is everywhere. Thick, heavy, impossible to move through. She can feel it in her mouth, her nose, her lungs. Pasquale stops crying. Maria screams, but no one can hear her. The molasses muffles everything. The wave hits a city maintenance building. Workers are inside, eating lunch. They hear the explosion. The building is torn apart. Chunks of concrete and steel fly through the air. Men are thrown like dolls. Some are killed instantly by falling debris. Others are submerged in molasses. They try to swim. You can't swim in molasses. They thrash. They gasp. They drown. The wave hits the elevated railway structure, the Atlantic Avenue Elevated. A train has just passed moments before. If the wave had hit 30 seconds earlier, everyone on that train would have died. The steel support columns of the railway are bent like twigs. The entire structure tilts. For a moment, it looks like it might collapse completely. Somehow, miraculously, it holds. There are people on the street when the wave hits. Delivery drivers, pedestrians, children playing. They see it coming, a massive brown wall. They run. Most don't make it. The wave overtakes them, swallows them. Some are thrown against buildings, crushed by the force. Others are buried in the molasses. It fills their mouths, their throats, their lungs. They suffocate, drown in syrup. Antonio DeStasio is driving a horse-drawn cart when the wave hits. He sees it coming. He jumps from the cart. He runs. The wave catches him, knocks him down, buries him. His horse is also caught. The animal screams, thrashes, slowly sinks into the molasses, drowns. Antonio manages to grab onto a piece of debris. He pulls himself up, gasps for air. He's covered head to toe in molasses, sticky, blinded, choking, but alive. The molasses spreads. It flows into basements, into subway tunnels, into sewers. It covers several blocks. Some areas have molasses several feet deep. It's like quicksand. People who try to walk through it get stuck, trapped. The more they struggle, the deeper they sink. Rescue workers arrive within minutes. Boston firefighters, police, volunteers. They're faced with a scene unlike anything they've ever encountered. Bodies, debris, and molasses everywhere. Thick, brown, sticky. They try to pull people out, but it's almost impossible. The molasses is so viscous that it's like trying to dig through concrete. They can see people, hear them screaming, but they can't reach them. Some rescuers sink into the molasses themselves, have to be pulled out. The smell is overwhelming, sweet, sickly, mixed with the smell of death, of blood, of fear. Rescuers work for hours, pulling survivors from the wreckage, searching for bodies. Some victims are found quickly. Others take days. Some are never found at all. The final death toll is 21, but the number of people affected is in the thousands. 150 people are seriously injured, broken bones, burns from the molasses, internal injuries. Many more suffer minor injuries. And everyone in the neighborhood is traumatized. Witnesses describe the horror, the screaming, the helplessness, watching people drown in molasses and being unable to save them. George Leahy, a Teamster, is one of the first on the scene. He later testified about what he saw: bodies half buried in molasses, people trapped under debris, a child's hand sticking out of the brown muck. He dug for hours, pulled out several survivors, also pulled out bodies. He describes the molasses as being like glue. It stuck to everything. You couldn't wash it off. For weeks afterward, he says, everything he touched became sticky. His clothes, his skin, his hair. No amount of washing could remove it completely.
The cleanup takes weeks. The city brings in workers with shovels. They try to scoop up the molasses, But it's impossible. The molasses has mixed with dirt, debris, blood. It's become a kind of toxic sludge. They try hosing it down with water from the harbor, salt water. That helps a little. The salt breaks down the molasses, makes it less viscous, but it's still a nightmare. They use sand, trying to absorb the molasses, to dry it out. That helps too, but it takes time. Days, weeks. The harbor turns brown. Molasses flows into Boston Harbor for months, killing fish, staining boats. For years afterward, on hot summer days, the streets of the North End smell like molasses. The smell soaks into the wood, the brick, the concrete. It never completely goes away. In the immediate aftermath, there are questions. How did this happen? Why did the tank fail? USIA immediately tries to shift blame. They claim it was an act of terrorism. Anarchists, they say. The neighborhood is full of Italian immigrants, some of whom are known anarchists. The company suggests that someone planted a bomb, sabotaged the tank. It's a convenient excuse. It absolves the company of responsibility, and it plays into existing prejudices, anti-Italian sentiment, fear of radicals. But it doesn't hold up. Investigators examine the wreckage. They find no evidence of explosives, no bomb fragments, no signs of sabotage. What they find is structural failure, pure and simple. The steel was too thin, the rivets were improperly installed, the tank was never tested, never properly inspected. It was a disaster waiting to happen. The families of the victims sue, a massive class action lawsuit, the longest and most complex trial in Massachusetts history at that time. It lasts 6 years, from 1920 to 1926. The company fights every claim. They hire expensive lawyers, expert witnesses. They argue it was an act of God, an unforeseeable accident, not their fault. But the evidence is damning. Workers testify about the leaks, the groaning, the complaints that were ignored. Engineers testify that the tank was structurally unsound from day one, that any competent engineer would have seen the problems, that the company prioritized profit over safety. Documents emerge showing that the company knew about the risks, knew the tank was dangerous, did nothing. Arthur Gell, the project manager, is called to testify. His testimony is devastating to the company's case. He admits he's not an engineer, admits he cut corners, admits he ignored warnings. He says he was just following orders, just doing his job, meeting deadlines, saving money. In 1926, the court rules in favor of the plaintiffs. USIA is found liable. They're ordered to pay damages. The total amount is around $600,000. That's roughly $10 million in today's money. For 21 deaths and 150 injuries, it's not much, but it's something. And more importantly, it establishes a precedent. Companies can be held liable for industrial accidents. They can't just claim it was an act of God and walk away. They have a responsibility to ensure their structures are safe. The case leads to changes in building codes, new regulations for industrial storage tanks, requirements for engineering oversight, safety inspections, testing. The changes come too late for the victims of the molasses flood, but they save lives in the future. The molasses flood becomes a cautionary tale, used in engineering courses, in safety training, a reminder of what happens when you cut corners, when you prioritize profit over safety, when you ignore warnings. Today, there's a small plaque in Boston's North End at Langone Park, near where the tank once stood. It reads, "On January 15, 1919, a molasses tank at 529 Commercial Street exploded under pressure, killing 21 people. A 40-foot wave of molasses buckled the elevated railroad tracks, crushed buildings, and inundated the neighborhood. Structural defects in the tank, combined with unseasonably warm temperatures, contributed to the disaster." It's a simple plaque, easy to miss. Most people walk by without noticing. But for those who stop and read it, it's a reminder of a day when Boston drowned in molasses, of 21 people who died in one of the strangest disasters in American history, of corporate negligence and its deadly consequences. The victims deserve to be remembered. Maria DeStasio, her son Pasquale, George Lay, the firefighters who died trying to save others, the workers, the families, the children. They were ordinary people, going about their ordinary lives. They died because a company decided profit was more important than safety, because corners were cut, because warnings were ignored. The Great Molasses Flood sounds absurd, like something out of a cartoon, a city drowning in syrup. It's almost funny. Until you understand what really happened, until you imagine being there, hearing the explosion, seeing the wave, being swallowed by thick, suffocating molasses, unable to move, unable to breathe, dying slowly, horribly. It's not funny. It's tragic. And it's a story that needs to be told. Not just because it's strange, but because it's important. Because the lessons learned from this disaster saved countless lives. Because corporate accountability matters. Because safety matters. Because people matter. On hot summer days in Boston's North End, old-timers say you can still smell it, the faint scent of molasses rising from the pavement, a ghost of that terrible day, a reminder that some disasters are preventable, if only someone had listened, if only someone had cared. This has been the story of the Great Molasses Flood. Thank you for listening to Echoes of History. Remember the victims, remember the lessons, and remember that the choices we make, the corners we cut, the warnings we ignore, they have consequences, sometimes deadly ones.